Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have 2 o'clock. Thank y'all for being here. A little unusual time and place for our Ag Committee. We got a lot of work to do in an hour. I think Ways and Means comes in after this. So we'll try to get started. And I don't know an order of some of these bills yet, but we'll get to them as we can. I want to ask Chairman Corbett if he would to open us up with prayer.
Everybody bow with me. Dear Lord, we just want to thank you for this day, Lord. Just thank you for many blessings you bestow upon us each and every day. Lord, just want to thank you for this state of Georgia, this great state we get to live in and work and play, Lord. We just pray, Lord, you just continue to lead, guide, and direct us, and everything we do and say here today would be pleasing in thy sight. Lord, just ask all this in your name. Amen.
Thank you. Members of the committee, I hope you're enjoying your ice cream. It was good to have an afternoon meeting. I didn't quite think morning at 8 o'clock was quite appropriate for ice cream, so good we have an afternoon meeting. Our peanut dinner, I think most of you who can come have RSVP'd, is tonight. Look at the time. I think we've had a slight change a little bit with the time. The reception's at 6 and dinner at 7, so everybody on the committee is welcome with a spouse or a friend. Please come. It's a great dinner and interact with our Peanut Commission Board of Directors as they give us their report, a yearly report on what they're doing. So look forward to seeing you there tonight if you can. We'll get right into our meeting. We've got a few bills I want to try to move, and some just want to hear for the first time. I'm going to turn this over to my Vice Chairman. We're going to hear HB 305, our Farmers Market Authority Act first. We've heard it before, and I'm going to come to the podium, and I'm going to let Vice Chair Campbell here run the meeting.
Thank you all, and Chairman Dickey, if you want to go with it.
Thank you. Bring you back HB 305, and we have a sub. Thank you, Dave Barry, for working on this bill, LC 510357S. And the sub, the language is very slight. Really, they're not doing any substantive changes to the bill you saw last time. Just a few little cleanup. But I thank you for considering this bill. As something, as I said last time, it's been in the works for many years. Penny Houston, Chairman Houston, has really been looking hard at it for several years. We did a study committee last year, House and Senate joint study committee, looking at our state-owned farmers markets facilities. And I want to repeat and thank y'all for clarifying that last time. These are only our state-owned facilities: Atlanta, Macon, Augusta, Cordele, is it Moultrie? No, yeah, Thomasville, one more, Cairo. Thank you. So those are the only facilities that we're talking about putting in the authority. And this authority bill is no different than most of our other authorities that are set up across the state that run our facilities, everything from Jekyll Island to World Congress Center, Stone Mountain. But it does, it's pretty thorough. The commissioner, Ag Commissioner, has had authority and control and management of these facilities ever since they were envisioned half century ago, and I've been working very closely with Commissioner Harper. I worked closely with Commissioner Black last year, and we just all think it's a better way to go forward, a way that we can improve these facilities, change the scope and focus of them, possibly. Many things have changed on how these operate, how farmers use these facilities. And I think authority will give us flexibility and the ability to raise funds, float bonds, to upgrade and build new facilities in the future. And Commissioner Harper is in favor of this bill, and we have on the third page, I think, for how we select the members for this authority. He would be a member, and in fact, the chairman of the authority, with some other members selected by the serving from the House and Senate, and other appointed ones. But that's really what the bill does, is just a new way to go forward that I feel is positive. I know other members of this General Assembly feel the same way over in the Senate and House. I've conferred with Chairman Goodman and many others over in the Senate through our Joint Study Committee last year. And so that's really what I'm asking for this bill, just to move these facilities into a autonomous kind of authority. Still owned by the state, still public facilities, but just a possibility of another group of eyes looking at these facilities. So I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee if you have any.
Okay, we seem to have a couple of questions.
Be glad to take them.
Number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Dickey, thank you for your work on this legislation, but I'm just curious to know, would this bill create any partnerships for our land grant institutions like Fort Valley and UGA?
Not really. That's not there. I mean, I think these authority will have flexibility to go in all kind of different directions. I hope, I said at one point, I hope we have the ability to instead of these few large outdated markets we got, we might do something smaller, co-op with cities. I know many of our cities and counties have their own farmers market facilities that are separate from the state. And so, again, maybe this authority will be looking at some different ways to enhance our farmers, enhance our consumers, really. I mean, this bill's all about consumers as much or more than it is about our farmers. Our farmers market their crops different than they did in 1930s and 40s and 50s. And so you sort of see that's what's going on out at the Atlanta terminal is lots of produce coming in from all over the Southeast and going out distributed. It's a distribution center. And so I think it's lots of possibilities in different directions and it'll give the, commissioner will have input into this authority, but also free him up of time and management to go other areas that he might want to go. So, thank you. Any other questions?
Got one more.
Okay.
Number 7.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move that we approve House Bill 305.
Okay, do we have any other questions? I think we have one speaker.
Well, I think Catherine Russell's here, counsel for Commissioner, would maybe like to say a word about this bill going forward.
Right.
Good afternoon. I'm Catherine Russell from the Department of Agriculture, and I would just like to echo the chairman's words, and that I know that Commissioner Harper and Chairman Dickey have been working closely on this bill, and so we're excited to see where that goes. And that's all, unless you guys have questions.
Discussion, I'm sorry. No more discussion at this time. At this point, I'll entertain a motion. Again, second. All right, we have that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? You have it.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Appreciate that. Appreciate the committee favorable consideration. Next on our committee, I'd like to ask Chairman Clay Perkle to speak to 458.
Thank you. Hello, you got me? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to, and I hate to correct my chairman, who I love with all my heart, but I'll be honest with you, 8 o'clock in the morning, I think would be wonderful for that Dickey's Good Peach Ice Cream. So I think that's the only thing I've heard you say wrong today, Mr. Chairman, but I did want to correct the record on that.
I'll remember that. I had not many days. I'm just one wrong.
Okay, so we've talked about this bill before, and I do feel a little uncomfortable presenting this bill, as I did vote no on the inaugural hemp bill. But I do feel like this is important, that we provide the belt and suspenders, that we put in safeguards in the industry. I was reading an article this week, or this weekend. They had found some CBD in Pennsylvania, had fentanyl and heroin in it. I know a similar situation in Alabama last week. We want to make sure that which Georgia consumers consume, they know what's in it. And that's what this bill does. It takes 18 pages to get there, but I say 18. It's actually only 16, but there is a lot of language, and I'm not going to walk through all of it as we did last time. I'm going to talk to you about changes I made from the last bill that we looked at, and then entertain some questions. And I have, I think, several people that might want to speak on this today. So on lines 33, 34, 35, we specified the 0.3% on a dry weight basis to make sure that this is the federal standard as it is now. If the feds decide to change later, then there would need to be action by this body. But right now, the 0.3% THC is where it's at. At the proper moment, though, Mr. Chairman, on line 33, I would like to take out the isomers of Delta-9 THC on line 33, as well as on line 260 and 261, isomers of Delta-9 THC. And I have someone who knows why we're doing that that will speak afterwards. So please don't peg me down on that one, as it is somewhat difficult for me to answer with my limited knowledge set. I did take out on the first paragraph of your last bill, it included that the revenue generated from this particular code section would then go back to the Department of Agriculture. Had some pushback on a similar bill in the Senate side, and so as a general rule, it goes to the general fund of the state, and that way we could keep up with it. My friends on appropriations will thank me profusely for that particular, although I would like to see the revenues go back to the Department of Ag. It seemed to be a sticking point in the Senate. I had someone ask me about all of the residual solvents that we are beginning like on 995 and following. And this is to make sure that our product is safe. These are the solvents that are used that can be used to make the products that we use if they have acetates and hexanes and toluene that could provide for an unsafe product for our consumer. And so it is a fairly voluminous bill, but in order to make sure that we have all the boxes checked, to make sure that the product that we provide that has a QR code on it, that what it says is in there and nothing else. There was one additional change on line 148, 149. Previously, there was only a background check required at when the license was applied for. I added language. It seemed to be a sticking point in the Senate there again, and it provided for background check be every 3 years. There still must be an affidavit signed annually, making sure there's no changes, but we will actually do a background check in this language there every 3 years. I would there again like to thank General Counsel for Legislative Counsel for taking my phone calls yet again. And there's another spot that I meant to talk to Department of Ag about before I got up here that is not a change that I think might be effective instead of January 1, 2024, the effective date. I am concerned that we need this as soon as possible. And I know that not wanting to put the Department of Ag at a tough spot right now, but perhaps July 1 of this year, because I honestly believe that consumers are at risk when we don't have this bill. So those are the 3 changes that I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that's not in this. Taking the isomers out and adding in the effective date to July 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your work on it here and trying to make these products safe for consumers. It's been a concern of mine for quite some time, and thank you for your work on this bill. I know Chairman Corbett through the years has put a lot of work into hemp, and thank him and others for this. So just so the committee knows, we're gonna come back with a sub on Wednesday. Is that
Okay.
is that the status here of what we'll do? We can talk about this and ask some questions, but we'll be ready with a sub to move on Wednesday.
You're the chairman. Serve at your pleasure here,
I
sir,
think
my
that's
friend.
probably the best thing we can do today, but we can get those changes made and have it ready for Wednesday. So that's what I'd like to do.
Okay.
We do have some questions. I'll go to Lewis Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I ask my question, which LC are you reading from?
LC 510358S.
Okay, great. It was the sub. Thank you, Chairman Perkle. for
Did
the-
that coincide with what you had?
It does.
Thank
I
you.
had both of them, so.
Okay.
Lines 218 through 222, and the current code has parameters for a minimum bond and
Yes.
a maximum bond. We took that out, and it just states $50,000. Is that a minimum or a maximum?
This is just what the bond shall be. So it's both a minimum and a maximum.
Thank you.
Number 10. You good? Okay. I'm sorry for the small room we have. It's I apologize. Who is
No, it was my question.
Representative Thomas? Is that you? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't have a mic, so he had. to push
Oh,
it for
okay.
me.
All right. You're on.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. My question, with the every 3 years, the background checks.
Yes.
For someone who has a license, and let's say something happens in 3 years and they have gotten in trouble, what are the consequences?
You just out of luck. You don't get a license.
Okay,
So, we will not reward bad behavior. So,
will they have an opportunity to sell their business?
I would think that there would be, that you would certainly want to liquidate your business if you couldn't do the license. So we have not addressed that here, but I would think common sense. No license, no money, I need someone else to hold this thing. But they also had to pass background check. Yes.
Thank you.
Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for bringing this bill. And you mentioned earlier about the safety. So we know it's over 100 types of cannabinoids. And when we do the testing, are you familiar with how many labs are in the state of Georgia? Or does this bill allow for testing outside of the state of Georgia?
So this will be an independent lab within the state of Georgia that is certified. So independent certified lab. And I do know we have at least one in the state, and I'm not sure how many.
And I'm familiar with just one myself. Is that the
Mhm.
one in Macon?
Yes.
Okay. And
I
so,
know there's one in Macon. I don't know how many.
okay. So in prep, would you yield for one more question?
Yes, I will.
In preparation for this bill to go forth and having many vendors in hemp, would that one location suffice, or?
So that is such an easy question. I'll have James Allen Bryant's dad, Russ, answer that for me if that would be possible.
That would be great. Thank you.
The way the bill states now.
You need to come up here, my friend. Is that okay, Mr. Chairman? I didn't mean to
Yes.
jump
Yeah, go ahead.
around, but he is someone that does have an expertise in this area, and he will be able to answer. Tell who you are and who you represent.
Good afternoon, I'm Russ Bryant. I'm with Second Century, down in South Georgia, Osceola. To answer the question about the lab, the IOS, that according to this bill, as long as it is approved by the state. So there are a lot of labs out there all across the country. As long as they have the iOS standardization, then I think it will, it's my understanding that we would be able to test that there.
Okay, and I see counsel is shaking his head, but that's, okay.
And your second question was?
How many of them are there?
Okay,
Now-
Would that-
now
Would
there's
that
one.
one suffice? I mean, anticipating
You
new
know,
vendors in this movement, and Georgia being heading towards number one in hemp.
currently, being that we're the only processor in the state of Georgia, obviously there's going to be some lag there. You know, we're wanting competition. We're wanting people to come in. It's to me, it's the same sense of why Lowe's builds right beside Home Depot. So we want to bring this to Georgia. We want to make it strong. I know that the lab in Macon, I think they can process a full panel about every 15 minutes is what she's told us. How many? 100 a day. So that would be a lot of testing. And I think that there will be a lot of testing at the beginning of this. And being that the test is good for 12 months, the testing should slow down unless we have a lot of companies come in fairly quickly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Representative Bentley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Perkle, thank you for your work on this bill. I'm just curious to know, how would this bill actually impact the two land grant institutions in the state, Fort
on.
Valley and UGA?
Come on, I really thought you was going to ask how it's going to impact the funeral home business. And I would say it's going to drive less people to your funeral home because we're going to have a cleaner product. So I would think all of our land grant institutions that perform a lot of research in ag areas will be positively influenced by this. Yes,
Okay.
I
Okay.
do.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, would it be possible, as I introduced Mr. Russ Bryant, I introduced him as James Allen Bryant's dad, who I taught in Sunday school, whose wife is going to have a baby Wednesday. He will not be with us on Wednesday. I am almost completely positive.
Oh, 100%.
So would it be possible to further the knowledge that he has regarding the isomers of the Delta 9 THC in taking that we'll look at on Wednesday, taking that out of the next sub, and have him comment on that now because he will
Yeah.
not be available?
Let's do that. All right, do you just want me to take questions on the isomers and esters, or just do an explanation of what they are? I guess would be my question.
Explain why it's important to take it out, if that's okay.
So, the esters currently, DEA come out with a ruling, and that would be your XO-THC, THCO, any acetates, and they have made a ruling on that. That was done 2 weeks ago, to where those are basically illegal regardless. So the way this bill states at the 25 milligrams,
I think that we should leave that at the 0.3, which is on the federal level. The isomers, they have not made a ruling on. The isomers are more of your Delta 8, Delta 6, Delta 10. Those occur naturally in the plant on smaller levels than the Delta 9 will, or smaller levels than CBG or CBD will. So leaving the isomers in there are important to me because it is something that we can extract from the actual plant material. It's also something that we're seeing a lot of medicinal benefits from. We're having users that stop using other things, you know, opioids, things like that will use the Delta 8 at smaller milligrams. So we're seeing that there is a benefit there. There is no benefit to 200 and 300 milligram products that we see on shelves currently. That's why the bill limits it to 25 milligrams per serving.
Members Committee, y'all need to hear that. That's what part of this bill's about, is knowing the strength of these products and what's in them and the dosage and those type of things. So thank you for that. We're gonna move on. We got some other questions from the committee. Representative Hagan, have you got any? You good? We've got some other people want to speak to this bill. We're gonna try to limit it to a couple of minutes, and really thank you for those comments. And we're gonna try to keep it specific to the bill. I got Reggie Deese from the Green Toad Farm. Are you here?
How are you? Well, I didn't think my name was going to get called that soon, but thank you. I just want to add that I totally agree with this bill. We have to create those safety nets with this product. As the first licensed grower in the state, who we're also vertically integrated, so we do not only grow the plant, we created a whole product line. And for us, I think a lot of the problems is coming in from out of state. If you look at growers in other states, they use pesticides, they use things that they're not supposed to grow these plants. Unlike Georgia, you know, we're Georgia grown, so we use nothing but food grade stuff to grow our product. We grow it with love, right? We make sure that everything we're doing is 100% in compliance. The problem is when this stuff comes in from other states, we have to have a way to test it to keep Georgia safe. So I'm all for that, and I think that that'll help protect us in the state and protect our consumer as we grow this industry. We're agriculture, right? And that's what I want to truly influence. The hemp industry is agriculture. It's not cannabis. It's agriculture. And we need to do what we can to strengthen this commodity in the agricultural industry, and that starts with protecting it through this bill as well. So that's my pitch on that. Any questions?
Thank you.
No.
Appreciate it. We're going to take a few more. Molly Beavers, Quantum Fair Trade. Could you come to the podium and speak to the bill?
Greetings, everyone. This is my first time doing this. I'm really excited. I'm in total agreement as well. I am in the community, and I'm seeing the effects of fentanyl on the ground level. And I mean, people aren't just dying, people are also just like slowing down in a way where like people are like very sleepy and almost, I don't want to say zombified, but it's actually a little scary. And the first time I heard about fentanyl, I thought it was a joke. I think a lot of people think it's a joke. And I appreciate that not only is Georgia pioneering as far as hemp is concerned, but yes, the testing is super important. My number one question is, along with this bill, there's a line in there about to provide for venue. I want clarity on what venue means. Does that mean venue to grow? Does that mean to provide more testing centers, more processing centers? because I don't think that one processing center is going to do it. And people talk about the legalization of or further legalization of marijuana in the state of Georgia, but we know we can't do that without more testing centers, more processing centers. So does the to provide for venue speak to that?
Well, you can speak to the author of the bill. I think anybody's open to open up a testing center. I know medical marijuana bill, who's totally separate from this hemp bill, addresses testing on that side of the thing. So, but speak to the author later. Appreciate your comments. Thank you for coming. Also, David from Cherrio.org. Please come and introduce yourself. Let us know what's on your mind.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is David Rodabaugh. My company is Cheerco.org. I actually just ran for Agriculture Commissioner as a Libertarian candidate. Unfortunately, didn't win. As a matter of fact, Molly Beavers, the previous speaker, was also ran as Agriculture Commissioner as an independent. So we're both here from a kind of a knowledgeable standpoint. And what I'd like to address is really, I think we're kind of being misled a little bit here by these different terminologies. And we're also being misleading the public of Georgia by trying to create this difference between cannabis and hemp. Cannabis is the overall plant strain. Hemp is a low THC version of cannabis. Cannabis is often known because it has a higher quality or quantity of something called Delta-9 THC. So we have somehow tried to separate these individual cannabinoids, saying that Delta-8, because it's derived from hemp, which gives the almost same exact response to the human body as Delta-9 that was derived from cannabis. So as we spend time talking about what and how we should make certain of these chemicals illegal, while indeed we already have legalized other ones, is a misuse of your time, and it's a misdirection of our public. So what I really hope that we do is we get some chance of someone to come in here, address the group very directly about what cannabis is. It's not a mystical plant that changes anything. It is part of the hemp family. So we have to start addressing those things realistically. We are behind the times from all the other states around us as far as our legislative activity in this arena. We're missing out on health benefits. We're putting people in jail who shouldn't be put in jail for this. All of these reasons are one that we should take time to really understand that the cannabis plant is part of the same thing that we've already legalized through hemp. As we try to backdoor these individual laws to pigeonhole how we're going to prosecute and criminalize use of this plant further, all we're doing is penalizing our voters, the citizens of Georgia. So what I suggest is we take time and we actually redo this bill. We actually go one step further and really understand what legalization of marijuana means to the state. It's not going to create a bunch of zombies. And I said often on the campaign trail, anyone who wants to smoke weed is smoking weed. What we're doing here today is not stopping that.
We're running out of time. Thank you for your thoughts on marijuana legalization, I guess, is what we're talking about. But
well, I'm also,
you.
sir, if I might, just one more. I'm really talking about understanding the individual
this committee has been dealing with.
And when some person says that one is legal and one is not, that is really misleading.
Thank you
for your time.
Thank you. Michael Hartz from Georgia Hemp Association. Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, if you want to speak anything else to the bill, thank you.
Well, thank you. I do thank you for listening.
Oh, Catherine Russell could speak to it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
I got one more speaker. Could we?
Okay.
Could we hold Russ
absolutely.
Bryant?
Yes, sir.
Russ Brunt's is, oh, you've already done. I'm sorry. Oh, Aviva. Oh, this wouldn't be a hearing without you here. Did you bring a friend?
I did bring Scribbles, if he's going to talk. But yeah, that's definitely metaphorical, the invisibility of me because of what I'm talking about, which is the invisibility of hemp grain. Thank you for having me, by the way. My name is Aviva Vuvuzela, and I founded the Georgia Hemp Economic Revival Organization over 10 years ago now. And Scribbles and I, we educate children and everyone about the benefits of industrial hemp, which does not include, you know, anything smokable or anything like that. And it's incredible. I mean, this one pack of hemp seeds, if you added it to your ice cream, it would make you more insulin sensitive. So insulin resistance means you might be getting a foggy head, you might be getting a little sleepy. So if you put this as sprinkles, and I think it's really yummy, then you counteract that. And so we're talking about this incredible nutrition, manganese, magnesium, potassium, omegas, every single amino acid the body needs. And so I think it's dangerous to not have this accessible to everyone because malnutrition leads to erratic behavior, disease, bouts of aggression. And I think a lot of us have malnutrition without realizing it because in the 40s, we stopped our relationship with this food. We might not have all been eating it, but our animals were. And so that meat had more omegas in it. It had more everything in it. So my issue is we have consumable hemp on the bill, but it doesn't include this. The feds have defined industrial hemp as any cannabis with less than 0.3% THC, which the Farm Bill this year is going to present 1%. We define it in this bill as anything non-consumable. So I think that's an issue with definition if we're going to include our amazing hemp seeds and the hemp protein powder and hemp sprouts. So this is not actually hemp sprouts. I haven't started that yet, but that is also legal and that has bioflavonoids.
Thank you. We're going to move on. Appreciate you coming.
Can I say?
Hope you can come back.
Just about the processing fee. If we define the industrial hemp and other things, why can't we define a lower processing fee? Because the industrial side of hemp cotton is subsidized even. They can't afford a high processing fee that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Chairman Corbett has a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And considering the number of new members we have on this committee, I think it'd be a disservice if we did not get to hear from Squiggles. I really do. I mean, they've never heard from him.
Yeah.
Representative Corbett, I love you. You are so sweet, and you're the one that can change the world by, opening up a hemp fuel processing plant so we can have gasoline.
You're very talented.
Thank you so much. I did email all of you, so you have my emails if you have any questions. And Scribbles and I would be happy to put on a private show for you.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Corbett. I apologize to our committee. I didn't realize we only had an hour today when we reserved this room. We look forward to Chairman bringing this bill back. Chairman's worked hard on this, so we're going to move on, and we'll be back on Wednesday morning, I hope, with some more of that. So I'm going to move on. I don't want to run out of time at the end. We have our citrus industry in South Georgia is really growing. It's new, and it's growing. And new Representative Chaz Cannon has a bill that I want to hear for the first time today concerning support of our commodity, our citrus industry. I know I have some of my friend Linda Savelle here all the way from South Georgia who's really been instrumental in pushing this industry down there and is a part of it. So Representative Cannon, the mic is yours.
Said I have to follow Scribbles, but I guess I'll try to, Good afternoon, Chairman Dickey, members of the committee. I'm here this afternoon to discuss House Bill 545, which would provide for the establishment of a commodity commission for citrus fruits. I guess I'll be talking about a commission for hemp and cannabinoids at some point. But the LC is 510340. Appreciate the opportunity to present my very first bill, and it should be somewhat uncontentious. I also want to thank the co-signers of the bill for lending me some credibility since I have very little as a junior freshman. The bill is very simple. It amends Code Section 2-8-11, definitions to add agricultural commodity for citrus fruits. It also amends Code Section 2-8-13 to add the ratification of the Citrus Fruit Commission and inserts a date for ballots to continue the existence of the commission after 3 years. This is a department bill requested on behalf of the Georgia Citrus Association. I wasn't aware of this, but in 2013, there were approximately 4,500 commercial citrus trees in the state. And today, there are nearly 500,000 across 45 different counties in the state. Last year, in 2022, there were approximately 11.5 million pounds of citrus produced in the state. And in 2025, it is projected that growers in the state will produce nearly 90 million pounds of citrus, a pretty phenomenal growth. Establishing the commission would allow for more research, education, and promotion of citrus fruits, which is the primary goals of a commission. Currently, the Department of Ag administers 13 other commodity commissions, so citrus would fall right underneath those 13 other commodity commissions. In terms of a fiscal impact, it's nominal, if any. Commissions are farmer funded, they are voluntary, and any expenses incurred are offset by fees generated from the assessments from those producers who participate in the commission. In this case, it'd be on the poundage of sales, box sales, of citrus box sales. So it's a simple bill. It's low, if any, cost. It assists a growing product in our state. And I do have some other folks still here who want to speak to the bill, but I will open it up to your questions and ask for your favorable support for this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. You do have some questions.
Here we go.
Chairman Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I hear you say that the Satsumas were better than peaches? Did I hear that?
My mentor is trying to set me up for failure here. No, sir, that's not the case.
Good answer.
Any other questions from our thing? I do have a couple of people want to speak to the bill. I have Jake Tench from Georgia Business Council.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I will be brief. I know that the last time we were testifying on 545, it was the right to farm, so hopefully it will be a little bit easier than that. I'm Jake Tench. I'm with Georgia Agribusiness Council. We are a trade association representing over 1,300 members statewide, ranging pretty much anywhere and anything in the industry. Along those lines, we do a lot of work with these commodity commissions, and they are a vital piece in our industry to make sure that these specific industries have the funding, the research, and the support that they need to not only survive but to thrive. And along with that, we work a lot with Miss Lindy over here with the Georgia Citrus Association, and we are very supportive of that. We believe that this industry, although it is young, we are right now participating, but we have the ability to compete in this market, and we believe that we can set the standard for citrus in this bill. We want to thank Representative Cannon for bringing it. We believe this bill is a step in the right direction.
Thank you. Jack Matthews, Georgia Farm Bureau, come speak to the bill.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Jake Matthews with Georgia Farm Bureau. We represent over 250,000 members all across the state, farmers of every single crop and commodity that we grow here. Anytime that members of ours or farmers in the state want to or have the desire to create a new commodity commission for their commodity, we're supportive of them doing so. So we do support this bill and appreciate the representative for bringing it. We think it's crucial to the education, research, and marketing of these new and emerging commodities. So we would appreciate your favorable support of the bill.
Thank you. Any questions? Lindisville, could you come? Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. We've heard the stats about citrus. It has exponentially exploded in the state, and about 5 months ago, the board of directors of the Citrus Association voted to pursue a citrus commission for the purpose of funding research, education, and marketing for primarily, right now it's primarily satsumas. About 75% of what we produce in the state are satsumas. Not a whole lot of people know about satsumas yet, so we've got to extend some marketing. But the primary thing is research and education. Research will be funded through the Citrus Commission. We continuously go to Georgia Department of Ag and the University of Georgia for assistance in research and so forth. So the Citrus Commission would be a means to help bring funding to pay for some of those things. And we greatly appreciate Representative Cannon bringing forth this, and we appreciate any support you can give us on this commission. Any questions of me? Thank you again.
Thank you for traveling here. Thank you for your work with this emerging, growing industry. I'm excited about it. I hope our weather. Catherine Russell, would you like to speak to the Department of Ag? Is she still here? Y'all administer this. Those of you who are not familiar, we have how many other commodity commissions that I hear? 13. Our peaches have one, and it's all self-funded. So is the department in favor of adding one more commodity commission?
We are. We're very supportive of Representative Cannon's bill.
Okay. Members of the committee, I'd sort of put down hearing only on this, but seeing, is there any opposition to maybe calling for a vote on this? I think it's very non-controversial. I hear a motion. Do I hear a second? Any other questions of the author? He seems very prepared with this bill. I know he's busy being a freshman. I didn't want to burden him having to come back. So all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So. You ready? Okay. HB 452.
HB 452. Courtney's passing it out, and she's passing out the sub that we had talked about in the last meeting, so this is nothing entirely new. I do want to say, as those are coming out as a means of filling airtime, in the hemp presentation, one of the presenters mentioned some of the effects of some of the seed making you drowsy. We have our own Colonel Hitchens can do the same thing without hemp as it comes in. So HB 452. Now you've got it. Here we go.
All right. What's the what number are you working off of?
LC 51034-9S.
Okay.
Currently, there are 40 million acres of ag land in the United States held by foreign investors. We're adding 2.2 million acres per year ever since 2015. In the state of Georgia, over 1 million acres of ag land is foreign owned, which by itself is not concerning. But it is a national security concern when ag lands or lands in close proximity to our military bases are owned by those that are hostile, foreign adversaries to the United States. This bill provides that no non-resident alien entity or foreign government designated as a foreign adversary by the United States Secretary of Commerce shall acquire directly or indirectly any possessory interest in ag lands or lands within 25 miles of a military base. Also provides remedies for when those lands are acquired indirectly, for instance, as an inheritance or in the collection of debts. There's also consideration for retaining ownership if the non-resident then becomes an alien. And lastly, a change on the last part of this bill, which is new language. Broker who is engaged by a client who is a prospective buyer or seller of a possessory interest in agricultural land shall timely disclose to said client the requirements and limitations of the code section. This was added on behalf of our real estate industries. They wanted additional language here, and we did that to accommodate them without unduly burdening the primary mission of this bill. So that's the bill. It's as we presented it last time, and with that slight modification.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure the committee, this bill is directed at our adversaries, correctly?
Yes.
Communist China, North Korea, Russia, some of those, right?
There is a listing of those that Secretary of Commerce updates when we have additional adversaries. And it's anticipated. There's no mention of any countries in this bill because that's not what we're about. This is about making sure those that the U.S. Secretary of Commerce has deemed to be foreign adversaries, that we make sure that we're protecting ours. So.
And it really has nothing to do with American citizens. It's only.
That's correct.
What? Be clear again about who would it affect? What individuals?
It is non-resident aliens.
Non-resident aliens.
That's correct.
Okay. Only.
That's correct. So, for instance, we can have someone who is Secretary of Defense of a nation that is a foreign adversary of the United States could actually purchase, even in this bill, could purchase ag lands if they lived here. So this bill deals with non-resident aliens. Yes.
Correct. Got a couple other people want to speak to the bill.
Okay.
I'm gonna,
Thank you.
if you're good with that. Jake Matthews, Georgia Farm Bureau, did you come back?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you again. Georgia Farm Bureau is in support of this legislation. We thank Chairman Perkle for bringing it. We think it's a very important piece of legislation. It's one that we actually have just this past year discussed pretty heavily throughout our policy development process within Georgia Farm Bureau. It's one that everything we do at Farm Bureau is all grassroots. So all the policy positions we come up here to Atlanta or to D.C. to advocate for, they all come directly from our members, our farmers who are actually out there each and every day growing food and fiber. And this was something that came up this year during our policy discussions, and I think it's something that's being looked at across the country, really, something that's being looked at federally and at the state level. There are 27 other states currently that have some sort of proposal moving through their state legislature. So it is something that's being looked at. I've been told by some other folks with other state farm bureaus that they are even looking to kind of what we're doing here in Georgia and see it as being a very good approach to how to go about it, and are considering maybe adopting this kind of approach on their own. And so, again, we are in support of it. We would appreciate your favorable consideration and glad to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Thank you coming in support of that. Mr. Tench, you want to say a few words?
Good afternoon again. I will be extremely brief. I know that I spoke to this last week in committee. Just want to reiterate the appreciation we have for Chairman Perkle for bringing this and his dedication to agriculture. And we are still in support of this. We believe that this bill is a step in the right direction as far as making sure that we have agricultural land for our future generations, and also making sure that we put food security as a top priority, and we think that this bill has the intent to do that.
Thank you. One more speaker, Jeff Ledford, Georgia Realtors. Do you want to speak to the bill? Thank you for being here.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Ledford with Georgia Realtors, and I hate to be the one that kind of points out the negative on this, and I do appreciate attempting to pull us out of being the policeman in it, but the concern is working with our experts at the national level. They are working on this at the national level with Congress, with Department of Defense, and with the appropriate partners there. But if this passes, it would put the state of Georgia in violation of fair housing, federal fair housing law. And that is, from our attorneys looking at this to see how this measures up against federal fair housing law. And it's because of country of origin. So it's not that we are in support of selling land to Kim Jong-un or anything like that. We think this is something that does need to be addressed and looked at. The concern, it's just, since it is addressing individuals and based on their origins, that's going to be the concern, is that upon enactment, it would immediately put the state of Georgia in violation.
I don't think it affects their origin. I think it's their legal status. So it's foreign. It addresses
and we didn't see that at
non-citizens.
When we were looking at it, as this is citizenship. This may not apply, and that's why we checked with we have attorneys in D.C. for the National Association of Realtors that work on everything under the sun with real estate. But there's a team that specializes with fair housing, and that is that's their assessment on this. And so I think we need to be careful moving forward quickly on it, because we understand the intent, and I totally get the intent. I have relatives that farm. But it's also one, and I also eat, and I understand it. But it is one where we don't want to see the state of Georgia be found in violation of fair housing by doing something with the right intent, but just having the wrong language there.
I appreciate you
Yes, sir.
bringing those views and your concern for that.
Sure.
Thank you. Chairman Corbett.
Just a comment. I think for us to sit back and wait on Washington to do anything would be a disservice to the people, because people we represent. So I appreciate what Chairman Perkle's doing.
Any other comments, Chairman Perkle?
Could I have Ms. Catherine speak?
Oh.
Just briefly, would that be all right, Mr. Chairman? I mean, we've got to go, and we're on a time constraint. Or if you want to go ahead and move the bill, that would be fine.
I'm ready to move the
Let's
bill.
do it then.
If the committee is, so,
Emery?
Emery.
No, and I support this. Really, I understand everything about this bill, really like it, but way too many times we get the cart before the horse. And I know you do your research, but we're not, if we pass this, going to have this come back next year and we're going to have to jump through 16 more hoops.
So
we see this every year, and that's what I want to make sure. If we're going to do it, let's do it right and get it out of here.
So thank you for the question, Representative Donahue. The gentleman 2 seats to your right, Dave Berry, has done an exceedingly outstanding job on this bill. We actually have, so there are 14 states that have enacted similar legislation. Ours is easily the absolute best in the country. There's 27 other states that's looking at this, and they're going to use this as a blueprint. So I can't look into the crystal ball in the future, but I can say this is the best. It took us 3 weeks to draft it. This is the best that I've seen, and I will stand by that.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Question. With the 25 miles, we're bending over doing that. Okay, the 25 miles, how did you all come up with the radius, and are there currently any non-U.S. residents that currently own land within those 25 mile radius, and how will we ensure that land doesn't get transferred from a current owner to a U.S. citizen if this passes?
So I will ask Dave Berry, Mr. Chairman, if that's okay, because we had looked at. I sent him copies of bills from many other states, and I'm assuming the 25 miles was taken from an average of that, Mr.
Mr. Chair, we looked at enough bills that I can't tell you directly which states had how much of a radius. That number came from discussions with a number of people just trying to find the right balance, knowing that probably there was no perfect number, but that a 50-mile diameter was a pretty large area without encompassing the entire state.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Representative Mathis. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Are there currently any non-U.S. residents that own land within the 25-mile radius?
So the question being, where are there non-resident aliens that own land within that 25-mile radius? I'm sure there are. There's nothing we can do about that. You don't go back on that. This is going forward, not going back. So this is not a taking of land. This is our policy going forward. Yeah.
Then how are we going to ensure that current landowners don't transfer land?
So the question being, how do we ensure that current owners don't transfer land to someone that does not? So the last portion of our bill is the broker will disclose that. So, and also we have, there's a national database that looks at foreign ownership of ag land. So that's where I got the, over 1 million acres of ag lands in Georgia that are owned foreign. So
Yeah,
that is, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Representative Mathis, have you got a question?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the bill do pass.
Is it true that your district's within 25 miles of Roberts Air Force Base too? Is that not right? Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, okay, one opposed. No, you got a question?
Abstention.
Okay. Abstention. Okay. All right, is Ways and Means out there?
They moved before at 6.
Okay, well. Representative Gaines, you're up. We are Agriculture and Consumer Affairs here.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
HB 528.
Yes, sir, and should be LC 540225S. Yes. So this legislation is that the same number y'all do have. We've made some changes, and I know today I think we're just going to kind of go over the bill for the first time. It is fairly lengthy, but the gist of the bill can really be found in lines 53 to 59. And the intent behind the legislation is online service providers or services that have online, where you sign up for a service online, but in order to cancel it, they make it impossible to cancel. And so in order to cancel, you have to call them or go see them in person or write them a letter. What this legislation simply says that if you go to sign up for a service online, whether it's Spotify or whether it's your local gym, and you sign up online, you should be able to cancel that service online. And that's basically what the bill does. There is other language in here. We actually clarified a bunch of it from the original version of the bill to make sure that that it's not too complicated for businesses. Other states have passed similar legislation. But really, again, our goal here is if you are able to start your service online, you should be able to cancel it online. So you have to wait on hold for 5 hours in order to cancel something. So that's the gist of the bill. Some of the other language I'll just briefly walk through. The beginning of the bill is just legislative findings, and it has the title. Then the definitions, which are found in lines 36 to 52. And then again, the meat of the legislation is really 53 to 59, which says that any business that allows a consumer to accept an automatic renewal or continuous service offer online shall allow a consumer to cancel the automatic renewal or continuous service online. And again, that's the meat of the legislation. It does allow two different ways that you can cancel, either just a direct link through your customer service profile if you have to log in, or an email where you could email and cancel your service. It does have legislation to cover if you can't find your password. Many people have been in that situation before, myself included. That they simply have to provide a toll-free number that you can call, and that's what that legislation walks through. And then again, it just walks through some of the terms and specifying that you do have to allow the consumer to be able to cancel that service. That has the notice requirements, and that's where we really made this bill a lot simpler. It simply says that you have to notify a consumer before you charge their card. The old bill, the first version of the bill, had a bunch of dates where you had to do it within 15 days or 3 days, and we simplified that, just saying you have to notify the customer before you're going to charge their card on automatic renewal. And that's really the gist of the bill. It does have several exempt industries, and the reason for that is because other state laws and regulations govern those industries. So I'll cover those very briefly on lines 137 to 149, and these are the exempt ones. The first is any business operating as a franchise by a political subdivision of the state. Other state laws already govern that. Anything that's regulated by the Public Service Commission, the Federal FCC, Federal Communications Commission, or Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, because we're preempted. Unfortunately, one of the worst abusers of this is your cable companies, and that they are preempted by FCC regulation, but there is regulation and works to address that. There's also bipartisan federal legislation in the Senate to address this issue, been introduced by both parties. And then also any insurance, again, other regulation rules govern those industries. And then banking, again, other regulation rules already address that. And so that's the big picture of the legislation. I know it's a lot longer than I kind of thought it would be when I had the idea, but be happy to answer questions if there are any. Sorry that took a minute.
Thank you. Any questions for this bill? Has anybody had any experience with this besides me? Oh my goodness. Representative Gaines, you have good bills through the thing.
I'll try to come up with
this. Looks like another good one.
Well, thank you.
Unfortunately,
Unfortunately, it's usually because people do bad things that make us come up with.
We do have one person want to speak to it, and this is hearing only too.
Sounds
so
good.
Thank you for bringing
Thank
this.
you so much.
And I hope to have you back at our next meeting. Misty Holcomb, welcome. Introduce yourself and tell you who you're with.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Misty Holcomb, and I represent the Entertainment Software Association. ESA is the National Trade Association for the video game industry. Initially, the original version of this bill, we submitted a coalition letter, which is not just our comments alone. It's with the Internet Coalition and TechNet, I believe. And I think that's in your folders, I believe. Yes, thank you. And I've also spoken with Representative Gaines, and I understand now there's a substitute, so just got that right before the meeting. He and I are talking, and we'll talk between now and Wednesday to see if those concerns were addressed. I think it was just some consumer things that they were looking at. But I just wanted to say, as of right now, we're working with the bill sponsor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any questions? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll move on. We got one more bill. Thank you, everybody, for the patience. Thanks for Ways and Means. Moving to another room. Representative Crowe, what have you got for us? We've had some good bills. I hope this one stacks up to what we've been doing so far.
I hope so. I think it will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is basically a predatory practices bill. over the last couple of years, a trend has started and a new practice has become fairly prevalent in our state. A typical scenario is something like this. A homeowner is offered a cash as part of a homeowner program or a grant. In reality, what they're doing is they're coerced into signing a 40-year listing agreement or an option for a 40-year listing agreement. The listing agreement is then filed at the Secretary Clerk of Court's office and as a covenant running with the land for 40 years. Over the last year or so, we've had lawsuits filed enforcing this arrangement on unwitting defendants and even defendants who were never part of the original agreement. Heirs are inheriting properties from family members who had entered into this agreement unwittingly, and when they go to try to sell the property as part of the estate, this lien pops up and they are basically held hostage to pay a certain amount of money to get it removed. There are some current laws in place in the realm of this area, consumer and elder protections, but there's some vagueness with those, and there may be some details that are needed that may not be readily apparent, and so probable cause is sort of hard to establish in those cases. Current estimates indicate that there are as many as 7,000 such filings with the clerk around the state, and I've personally run into it a handful of times on some deals that we and others that I know of have had. So real quick, just kind of running through what the bill does. House Bill 471, I apologize, I didn't state the House Bill number, and it's LC 491275. It would look to kind of cut off the spigot with these situations and stop this practice from occurring. Section 1 establishes the action as a listed item in the Fair Business Practices Act of 1975. Section 2 would require a clear statement that in the unsolicited inquiry into the acquisition of real property, Section 2 exempts 3 licensed trades that are covered in other sections of the law and have more stringent requirements. And it also establishes a prima facie case on the existence of the solicitation alone. Section 3 establishes a new definition for BRETA, which is the Brokerage Relationships and Real Estate Transaction Act, and an option to enter a brokerage engagement is defined to address the instrument currently being seen to create these 40-year liens. Section 4 establishes default terms for brokerage engagements and options to enter into brokerage engagements. Section 5 prevents brokerage engagements and options to enter brokerage engagements from being the grounds on which to establish a lien against real property. And then Section 6 is similar to Section 2, but applies to telephone solicitations, and the same exemptions apply for the same reasons earlier. So I know there's a real broad overview of that. In the interest of time, trying to exercise some brevity, but basically these actions would stop or go a long way towards stopping these practices that have been, again, targeting primarily elderly and poor people in this area. They seem to be targeting these folks specifically to try to get these agreements signed. And there's many articles in newspapers and on the news recently in Atlanta about this, and we have some folks here that can also testify to it as well, but I'll be happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Do we have any questions from the author? I just want to make sure the committee knows your background. You are a real estate broker.
I am
and
a real
owner
estate
of an
broker.
agency.
I am a real estate
Very
broker.
successful one too, I hear.
Well, we hope to be. And this is a practice this is something that those of us that are legitimate practitioners would never engage in, and so I think it's harmful to those folks and it's harmful to our industry as well. And I think Representative Carter had a question too.
Yes,
You may not consider.
Representative Carter. Sorry, I don't have your own microphone. What are we, number 10?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for this bill. My question is, will this also include homeowners who have taken out like with the reverse mortgage type loans? So they're totally excluded.
This would not cover that. That industry is covered under other guidelines of Consumer Finance, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and other entities like that would cover some of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The violation at $200 per violation, is that enough to?
Well, $200 per violation, but it also stops these from being able to be recorded as liens as well, which is really, it's what we're trying to stop is that practice. And so them not being able to record this option to enter a brokerage engagement or the brokerage engagement itself, not being able to record that as a lien that tracks with the property, will stop them from being able to file these suits. You know, we had a bill this morning on the floor, I believe Representative Reeves had about Liz Pendens being filed, notices of lawsuits. These are some of those that have been filed. That notice of a pending lawsuit will stop a transaction in its tracks. And so once they file that, the heirs to these properties or an elderly person who needs to sell this house so their family can use that money to take care of them cannot do that. They stop that transaction. It can be held up for years, basically hold it hostage unless they agree to pay this arbitrary amount of 3% of whatever they deem the value of the property to be.
A follow-up, Mr. Chair? Could I have a follow-up,
Yes.
Mr. Chair? Would that be okay?
Go ahead.
So I can't hear very clearly at times.
Okay.
Did you say 4-year or 40-year?
40.
40.
Yes, sir.
I would like the penalty to include some blood if you are targeting an elderly person, and that's 200 is a song. But thank you for the bill.
Yes, sir. And I don't disagree with you. I think it's again, it's why we called it a predatory practices bill. It's very egregious.
Have another question, Representative Cox.
Thanks for this bill. I've seen this happen in grandparents' lives and things like that, and this is I'm concurring with what he's saying. I strongly would request that penalty be significantly higher than $200.
And the penalty, let me just to make sure that we're on the same page talking about this. That is for violating there's another part in here that requires notices to be when you send out an unsolicited letter or an unrequested letter solicitation, you have to have that in a certain, it has to be listed on there now that it's a solicitation and that you don't have to respond to it. And I believe, if I'm correct, that $200 is for violating that practice.
That is what council just told me,
per
per violation.
Not of this, but we just unsolicited mail like you used to get there were companies doing this with deeds where you'd buy a house and they'd send you a thing saying, hey, we can get you a copy of your deed for $60. Now we require them to make sure that when they send that, it's not an official mailing, that they don't have to respond to it. That's what that $200 is for, just that portion of this act.
Representative Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, with the $200 per violation, is that $200 per campaign they send out, or $200 per person that they send it to? Because that could be quite significant.
We have some representatives here from the Bar Association, I believe, that are going to be talking. So I'm going to defer that in particular interpretation to them. They help work on this as well, the real estate section of the bar and the bar itself, and they would be more knowledgeable about that than I would.
All right, we got a few people signed up. Representative, why don't we move to them? Jeff Lefford, do you want to come back and give us your thoughts on 471?
Absolutely. I'd much prefer to talk to this one. This is a bad situation that we've seen we saw enter the state of Georgia in 2020. In the latter part of 2020, we referred any that were coming our way, so any of our members that were seeing this, to the Department of Law, the Consumer Protection Division, and to the Real Estate Commission. Unfortunately, it's a difficult case. So when Representative Crowe was speaking of creating a prima facie case, that's what this is about. Because if you are doing deceptive practices, there are penalties that could come your way. It's just you have to see what all has been going on to even be able to open the case. This allows you to open the case simply on the surface. I kind of think of it like you can't drive an unroadworthy car in the state, but you don't have to be a mechanic to determine that. You can look and see the headlights busted out. And so this is essentially creating what can start the case so that they can see the truly bad behavior that's been going on. A lot of people are getting harmed, and also equity is being stolen. Some of this is also dealing with some of the wholesalers who are doing what's illegal for someone who has a license to do, which is a net listing, but they're going and convincing someone to sell their house way under value to them, but they never actually buy it. And then they go find another buyer that's getting, market value, and they're pocketing $100,000. So it's two bad situations. The biggest one, though, is this 40-year listing agreement, and it is filed as a covenant running with the land. So that means not only would it hit the first person that it hits, it actually could, the way it's written, be brought against every owner and every transfer for the next 40 years. So that's the scary part with it. But I'm not the one that's seeing these and seeing the details of it. There are some others here to testify to that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Line of legal aid, Donna French, is she here? French. Could you help? God, it's just gonna sit there. Well, welcome. Tell us your name and who you're from. I didn't do a very good job.
It's an unusual name. My name is Dina French. I'm a staff attorney with the Atlanta Legal Aid Society, and I am very grateful to Representative Crowe for inviting me here to comment on the bill and to share some of my clients' stories. Just for some of you who might not be familiar with Atlanta Legal Aid, we were founded in 1924. And we provide free legal services to lower income Georgians with the goal of helping families maintain housing, employment, access public benefits. And then the unit that I'm with, the Home Defense Program, also helps homeowners who are victims of scams or wrongful foreclosures. This is a really important bill. As Jeff said, over the past 3 years, thousands of these agreements have been entered into. It's like wildfire. And this bill the bill does not address sort of what we think are deceptive sales tactics and marketing and things like that, but it prevents the companies that use this model from easily trying to secure their rights under the agreement. So I first heard about this business practice, about a year ago. Legal Aid has something called the Senior Legal Hotline. We partnered with the Division of Aging Services to operate a hotline that serves the entire state. So any senior citizen in Georgia can call the hotline and access free legal services. We were specifically trying to reach, rural residents who don't live close to an attorney, and homebound seniors. And so the first time I learned about it, I got a call from a 75-year-old widow from Muskogee County. She had just been sued by one of these companies. The company is called MV Realty. She had no idea she had signed a 40-year listing agreement furthermore, she had no idea that the company had actually recorded what they call a memorandum of agreement that basically acts like a lien on her property for 40 years. So that if she ever sells the property, or say she dies, or say there's a foreclosure, then the company gets the greater of 3% of what they determine the value is at the time they enter into the agreement, or what they determine the market value might be. Again, it's their determination of what the value is. I'm really aware of time. I've had 9 of these cases, and I could tell you about, I want to value your time. I do want to tell you some of the details. Cut me off if I'm going too long, okay? Okay, so, I got a call this morning. I'm going to skip the first case I had. I got a call this morning from a woman up in Gilmer County. Again, 69 years old. She had no idea she had entered into one of these. Her husband passed away in 2020. She was very distraught. She has chronic health problems, lives, on a mountain up in LJ. And the listing agreement I sent around is not the listing agreement, but the homeowner benefit agreement I passed out is actually hers. After her husband passed, she had a lot of medical bills from, the last days of his care. She also had a lot of home repairs she had to do. Her only income is Social Security. With her husband's passing, she lost his income. So now she's, just living on her only income is Social Security. So she went on the internet and started looking for government grants. And this is a common story you will hear over and over. I hear this from all the clients who called us. They're looking for government grants on the internet. Suddenly she gets a phone call from someone who says, "Oh, we can help you. We can help you. You don't have to pay us back." She said they did ask to make sure she had title to her home, and she said, "Well, I'm in probate right now, but yeah, And so they sent someone to her house. She met them outside, spent 5 minutes. It was a notary. The notary said, "Sign here, sign here, sign here, initial here." She did. A few weeks later, she did get a check for $890, and she was very happy that she got the check. About a year later, her probate attorney had done a title search and said, "Oh, I see you have this lien on your property." And she's like, "What?" And she said, "We have to get MV Realty's permission to complete your probate because you're going through a petition for your support," which I won't go into details, but that allows some people to avoid some debts. So she felt like she was stuck. She signed a ratification of the agreement, even though her neighbor, who she had known for 40 years, was already going to buy her property because my client was going to move to Alabama to move in with her son. So she closed on her house Friday. She called me this morning to say, "I closed on the house," and she had to pay MV Realty $8,900.
Wow.
They did nothing. And this is a story you hear over and over and over. So this is a bill that needs to be passed. Legal Aid, because we are very consumer focused, we would like to see a few tweaks. We'd like to see a transaction. There's some things we'd like to see. We'd like to see the duration of an option to enter into these brokerage agreements for residential property be capped, say, at 1 year. I know that this is not the time to raise those, but the core of this is preventing the recording of these memorandums as a lien. If we do nothing else this legislative session, you will have helped tens of thousands.
Thank you for that compelling example and story. I appreciate your time coming down here. Actually, we had one more person, Amy Huskins from the State Bar. Georgia, you here? Can you keep it quiet? Oh, thank you. Okay. My committee is getting restless. I think they're out of ice cream.
My name is Amy Heskins, and I am the legislative co-chair of the Real Property Law section of the State Bar. The State Bar of Georgia voted officially to approve this bill in this format. I'm talking about all 52,000 members. They didn't all vote, but the State Bar itself voted on that, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the bar itself, the Real Property Law section, as well as the Fiduciary Law section, which has probate issues, as well as the Elder Law section. Let me mention something very quickly. One of the reasons, obviously the victims here are the ones who are hurt the most, but it also affects the practice of law. It affects Jeff and the realtors. The realtors can't get paid a commission because we have thousands of these matters right now in the state of Georgia. The closing attorneys can't close the deal. We don't get paid. That is not a reason to pass or not pass this bill. I'm just saying that bar itself worked with Jeff in drafting this legislation. I do want to say very quickly that there are 4 lawsuits right now in the country where the attorneys general of 4 states are suing these types of brokers. I hope they put them out of business. We don't know. That's Florida, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Ohio. We know there are 30+ states that have this type of practice. The various senators are trying to do something, but we need to do it now because it'll take forever in the federal statute with the federal legislators. And one thing that this is, in my opinion, the best part of this bill that you're going to discuss, and Jeff mentioned this. It specifically says if a lien is filed against real estate where it's predatory and they're otherwise violating the statutes anyway that already exist in the state. For example, only commercial real estate brokers can file a lien. That's a statute. It's been in effect since 1993. Very clearly says commercial real estate. Every single one of these victims is a residential real estate issue. So they're already violating statutes anyway. And what we want to do is stop the practice of filing the lien. And it says if a lien is filed, that it is automatically void. So these 7,000 victims so far would have to go to a court of law and get what is called a quiet title action to remove that lien. It may cost $50,000 a piece to do that. And so that's what we're trying to stop, and we hope that you consider this bill because it's going to help everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Representative Crowe, we had some good bills here today, but you raised the bar on this one.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And just to touch on what they said again, yeah, it does. It impacts us being able to sell houses, but that's minor, almost non-existent for what these folks are going through. And like I said, I've just personally, I don't really even sell much anymore, but I've encountered this 4 or 5 times myself in deals like this that people are really stuck and really hurting. And one thing I did want to highlight real quick, one thing that Jeff mentioned, and we kind of glossed over a little bit talking about this more predatory practice, but the part about the wholesalers, in case any of y'all are curious about that, and the net listing. So when I take a listing, I have to tell somebody I represent them, tell them what the property's worth, and I can only sell that and charge a certain percentage of commission, right, to be fair. I can't do what's called a net listing, say, hey, your house is worth this, and then sell it for, get somebody to pay whatever they're willing to pay for it and keep the difference in that, right? That's illegal in the state of Georgia for me to do that as a professional. You have wholesalers out here who are getting a contract, say, hey, I want to buy your house, I want to put it under contract. They never intend to buy it. They have an option to buy it. They go around, turn and try to flip and sell that option and net that. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to skirt the real estate brokerage laws and do a net listing with that. So that's why some of that is covered in here as well, and that practice as well. But I appreciate y'all's time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I see no questions. Hopefully we'll be back and we'll pass this bill in our next meeting. Any other business coming before the committee? Thank y'all for your, thank everyone for your patience. Hopefully we got another meeting, hopefully Wednesday morning. But anyway, you'll be in notice. Thank y'all very much. Meeting adjourned.